Yo, this is Steve Bloom, and you're watching Moana Nui Podcast. We'll be starting soon. Don't go anywhere.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, it's live. Hello.
I'll make sure we get both of you in. There we go.
All
Perfect.
right. Buongiorno, live people.
Buongiorno. So we're just gonna do some Q&A. Dana has set up so it's live on hers, and then
Cool.
Danny's gonna ask the questions as well.
Yes, and it'll also be on MomoCon, so that way everybody who couldn't come at MomoCon can check out your
Say hello to us.
That's so exciting.
So we're like all the way live. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Hello.
I'm Heygude. This is.
I'm Catieosaurus.
I always want to introduce
And together we're
Infinite Quest.
nailed it.
Nailed it.
It's great.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and also being a guest with MomoCon's Winterfest.
Of course.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been like our favorite convention.
Oh yeah,
It's amazing.
definitely.
Awesome.
y'all are local, right?
We are.
We
We are local to Atlanta, so we're just now. Like I moved here 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we're just now learning about all the amazing cons that are just in Atlanta. It's amazing.
Yes, yes. So, of course, for those that may not know you and are being introduced for the first time through our show and also through MomoCon, what made you put Infinite Quest podcast together?
Like, oh, sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So I got my start on TikTok as an ADHD and mental health advocate and educator. I talk a lot about ADHD and depression and just
you're
kind of.
live on TikTok, right?
Oh, hello
Oh,
TikTok
hello,
as well.
TikTok.
Hello
Hi.
TikTok. As well, I feel like I should go live on TikTok now.
Yes, you can.
But so basically, I started talking about this, and we sort of like built this community. And then one night, just sort of like arbitrarily, I messaged Eric and I said, the laws of ADHD and TikTok say that
Yeah.
we should do a collab.
We were both sort of doing the same thing at the same time, and
Just
people
like-
started putting our names in the same things.
It would comment, and so like I had no idea who he was, and so then I messaged him. And then the first night, I called him to talk about this collab, and we talked for 3
Yeah,
hours
we're trying to do
for a 1 minute collab.
1 minute TikTok collab.
and-
1 minute video.
And then the second night, we tried again, and we talked for another 3 hours, and that happened for almost a month. And then at some point, I realized that I was falling madly in love with him.
Oh,
But also, we told people on the internet, we were like, I was on a TikTok live actually, and I said, oh my gosh, like me and Heygude, we keep having these like 4-hour conversations about this 1 minute collab, and somebody in the live said, I would give anything to listen to those conversations, and we were like, well, I guess we should just start a podcast. And so we did, and now we're a top 50 mental health podcast. We talk about life with
Nice.
ADHD and depression and navigating life as neurodivergent adults. And I feel like I'm doing all
And
the
she always
talking.
No, please.
She always has the most comments.
I do.
Yes.
I always have fruit snacks. But we started playing D&D, and when we started playing D&D, it kind of started off as a joke, and then the internet kind of exploded about it, and so
She got up to 1 million a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Something like that. But we wound up playing D&D, and then playing D&D is what has allowed us to like start talking at conventions. And so now we tour all over the country, and we talk about neurodiversity in gaming and inclusivity and adaptability for neurodivergent brains, and it's just become something really, really special to us.
Yes,
I verify those claims. I agree with that timeline.
yes. And I love the fact that y'all do that because with our our show for the Moana Nui show, once a month we actually have a therapist come in.
Oh wow!
And we
Cool.
talk about different topics. So we talked. 1 month it was on grief. 1 month it was on. Let's see. I'm trying to think about our topics. We did grief. We talked about imposter syndrome. We talked about different things that affect creatives and especially people in the geek community
Yes.
that people don't want to talk about, or we try to use it as something else. So it's like, yeah. Imposter syndrome. It's really bad in the geek community.
Yeah.
It really is.
And then the other one was over independence that we talked about. And they were like, yes, people that get, especially in the geek community, that get so disappointed because you reach out to someone, you try to work with them, they don't show up, they don't do their part. So then you develop this over independence and you're doing it, but you're also stressing yourself out. You're tiring yourself out mentally
Yeah.
and physically and all that. So we do that also once a month to kind of get that conversation going.
Mhm.
So hats off to you for doing this also on a regular basis, because we constantly hear the term ADHD, but a lot of people don't know what it truly means. They get this off the wall idea of what a person with ADHD is supposed to look like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, there's no look to ADHD. There's various looks and everything, but you can learn if you have it by seeing these type of things.
Or you can watch Catieosaurus on TikTok because
That
she
too,
comes up
that
on the
too.
ADHD For You page.
Okay. That's
And
awesome.
I'm sure there's a lot of people on TikTok that get ADHD stuff through you as well as the other creators out there. Because there's more than one, and you've collabed with a few.
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's an amazing group of people all creating
Yeah,
different
each
types of
TikTok is,
content.
quite a
It's
vibrant
amazing.
place.
That is beautiful. And it's great that you're using platforms that a lot of creatives and people within the con community go to, especially with the pandemic being stuck at home. They lean so much on it that they had a way to get that information instead of the really dry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Somebody just reading. From one.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, part of our underlying goal is, I always think about, if you were to go back 70 years
Yes.
and somebody were to say, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to go running. Somebody would say, well, from what?
Yeah.
You know, they didn't think about physical health in that way, that you
Yeah.
would be constantly maintaining it through hard exercise and whatnot. Whereas now, if you say, I'm going to go for a run or I'm going to go to the gym, it's like, oh, of course, you're maintaining your physical health. That makes
Yeah.
sense. We want to bring mental health into that same commonplace, so that when somebody says, I'm going to go to therapy or I'm going to meditate or something like that, people don't ask, why are you going to therapy? Or
Yeah.
like, what's wrong? You're like, well, nothing. I'm just maintaining my mental health. That's just
Exactly.
what we do. We want to bring mental health into that same arena,
Yes,
where it's
exactly.
just people maintain it and can talk about it and do what they
Mhm.
got to do to be the best version of themselves, or version of themselves that they like.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And hearing both what you're saying and everything. So, how has the podcast helped with your ADHD? Or has it,
Next question.
Encourage it.
All right.
or did it encourage it more?
I mean, I think in some ways it's helped, in some ways it's hindered. I mean, certainly it's allowed us to learn more about ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, just more about like mental health in our community as a whole, because we do a lot of research and we do a lot of like studying before we do it.
Yes.
I know for me it's also really helped because like we try our best to release an episode every Thursday, and so for at least me it's helped us like get into more of a routine in terms of like what our sort of day-to-day, because we're full-time content creators now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the fun thing about that is that if you have a phone, your job is with you all the time.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
having, dedicated hours to say, okay, we're going to focus on the podcast. We're going to focus on this. Like that's been really nice. But yeah, I'd say it's a little, some good and some bad.
Yeah, I think for me, the podcast, and really just all of Infinite Quest, which is not just the podcast, but it's just every endeavor that we have together. We have a Minecraft server called Questcraft for neurodivergent people to come. We make content there. We stream on Twitch all the time. We have YouTube, so it's not just but just Infinite Quest as an endeavor. For me, it's been more like it's been sort of like a spotlight or like a floodlight that's revealing all of these areas of my brain that like, oh, I realize I'm actually really good at this.
Yes.
I'm really bad at that.
Yeah.
16 months ago, I was a pizza chef. I'd been a pizza chef for 7 or so years. And in the kitchen, everything is very structured. You always know exactly what you have to do. My job was to do what the chef needed me to do.
Yeah.
So I was never confused or I was never ambiguous what I should be doing. But now I have to do all that stuff, and nobody's going to yell at me if I don't, do that extra edit on the podcast that I didn't tell anybody I thought I should do or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's really been a floodlight for like, oh, I need to get better at time management.
Yeah.
But once I'm doing the editing, whatever, I can focus really well. So it's really been just a big sort of like shining like a black light on a room, and you can see all these areas you never thought
Yeah.
But it's been exhilarating overall.
Awesome. Now, for those in the audience that is not familiar with D&D, can you tell them what that is?
What is defined?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons. It's Dungeons and Dragons is gosh, how do you explain Dungeons? It's a tabletop role-playing game where you sit around with your friends and you
It's
hopefully
like WoW with a book.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you tell good stories. You fight a few monsters along the way. But it's really based a lot in collaborative storytelling and problem solving, a surprising amount of math.
Well,
but it's
With
but
rolling, yeah. there's
rolling
a lot
dice,
of
surprising amount of addition. I mean,
Addition.
for me, I always think, I was a video gamer and a LARPer before I was a D&D player.
Okay.
And in video games, well, LARP is different, but in video games particularly, there'll be some times where your character's like, you're on a quest to find like a cloth to soak up a spill or something.
Yeah.
And in my head, my ADHD brain, I'm thinking like, well, my character's wearing like all these extra clothes. Why doesn't he just like rip off the thing and use that?
Yes.
D&D is that. You can do literally anything. So
Ah.
You just gotta roll for it.
you just
Yeah,
got to
you
roll
just
for it.
gotta roll
Exactly.
for it.
So it's a way of setting up an infinite world where literally anything you can think of, you can do.
Okay.
So a big dragon might appear
Yes.
and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to fight it. But you can also think like, I wonder if this dragon likes poetry. And you can read a poem. And maybe it does like
Maybe
poetry.
it does. You never
So
know.
If
it's
you
like-
speak dragon, you can do that.
Okay.
Exactly.
If
So
some
it's-
can talk dragon, some can talk orc, Middle Earth. There's a lot. It's complex.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Very
complex.
nice. Very nice. So basically, for those out there, you're basically writing your own story, like they said.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I haven't played D&D, but I am familiar with it. The one thing that always made me ask is like, okay, the dice. I'm trying to always figure out the dice because it's like it goes up to 20, and it's like, and then I see people selling the different types of dice and everything. I'm like, okay, what is it with that dice?
Yeah. Well, for me, I always felt I have a very hard time reading. I always have,
Yeah,
largely because of my
okay.
ADHD.
Right there with you.
It's a whole thing. But reading and obviously focusing in a lot of circumstances. So I always felt very gatekept from D&D. But when I sat down with Katie and Chris for the first time, Chris is Katie's husband of our DM.
Mm-hmm.
I kept going like, which dice do I roll? There are all these dice and all these numbers. And I was like, which dice do I roll? Which am I adding to what? And he, for the first time in my whole life, said the life-changing thing. He said, roll the D20 unless I say otherwise.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh my God, yes. Like that's
So
all
much
I needed
easier.
to hear.
It's so much easier.
So to those of you who might be intimidated by all that, just the DM it's their job
That's the
to
one
know all
way,
that stuff.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they
You
will
have to
tell you
read.
if you need to roll a different dice or if you should be adding a number.
Okay, so
You
you
know.
have some guidance. Okay,
Exactly.
that's good. Because I was just like,
Yeah, find a DM that'll do that for you.
Okay.
It's
Find a
fine.
good DM.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or a bad one.
okay. Because people were like, you should play it. I'm like, I
Oh,
don't
it's
know the
fun.
thing with the debt. I don't know the thing with the dice. I don't understand.
People will teach you. It's a lot of fun.
Indeed,
Okay, okay. So that's awesome. And I love that you've taken something that was that you were already doing, something that you enjoy with D&D, and made it a platform to connect to so many in the community that you got to your 1 million. That just shows how
Well,
much
she's
is important
She's
that
a
they're
little
here.
past that now. so-
I know.
I'm a little past that now, but
And a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, I got 2, I got 3." I'm like, "Woo,
She also-
100, yay!"
Didn't you get featured on BuzzFeed?
I've been really fortunate in
Yeah.
that. I mean, basically, what I found was that I started doing this right at I think the right time because we're
Mhm,
just
yes.
now starting this conversation, and especially like with the pandemic, so many people have witnessed like this sort of like breakdown in their structures and their systems
Yes.
and the things that we're working. And so what really wound up happening was that there was this really profound like sort of conversation about mental health and what that looked like during the pandemic. And so I think that like I don't think I'm doing anything, super out of the ordinary or magical or anything. But what I really think is important is having frank and candid conversations about the challenges of mental
Yes.
health. And like, for a lot of people, they might look at what we do and say, oh, it's so silly. You talk about playing Dungeons and Dragons with ADHD. What's the big deal? But for 15% of the population who lives with a disability, things like Dungeons and Dragons can
Yes.
be very inaccessible.
Yes.
And so I think what basically wound up happening is that because we were so passionate about having these conversations and really opening up the dialogue, we found a community, and we found an incredibly supportive community who is so enthusiastic and so supportive, and they're really like the reason why we are here. And so more than anything, I think I'm just grateful. Like BuzzFeed is great, but it's not about the BuzzFeeds for me. It's about just like the one-on-one people who will, stop us at the convention and say, oh my gosh, like your work has really changed my relationship or the way that I talk to my daughter. And that to me is like, that's what's special for us is BuzzFeed is neat and cool. It's BuzzFeed, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But it's really just about the community that we've built and this ability that we're really finding to like create positive change in our community space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I find a lot of struggles that neurodivergent people have is based in communication. Yeah. They don't have the language or they don't have the confidence to communicate what they're trying to communicate. And to us specifically, well, I don't want to necessarily speak for you, but certainly for me specifically, gaming and particularly D&D has been a common language that I can have with other people that I can communicate with.
It's an icebreaker.
Exactly, it's an icebreaker. It's a way to know that what I'm saying is what the other person is hearing. And so we want to make sure that experience and really that feeling of being heard is as accessible to as many people as possible, no matter what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I like that you've also been including parents in the talk lately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with a mom who didn't know or really understand a lot about neurodiversity, and that has really impacted just like my entire life experience. Some positive and some negative. And so I think that opening the conversation and saying, no, this isn't just about your person who has ADHD. This is about your parents, and this is about your relationships, and this is about, everybody in your life and how your particular neurodivergency, manifests. Like it can have really serious impacts on relationships and communications, like Eric was talking about. And so, for us, like we don't make it just for ADHD people. In fact, I would say like half of our podcast episodes aren't about the ADHD person. It's about like navigating life with an ADHD partner or friend, because I think those are just as important.
Like when you go to Home Depot and end up with a tattoo.
Yes, it's, this one actually.
Oh wow. Okay, obviously there's a serious story about that.
It was so.
Follow her on TikTok.
Okay. So you went to Home Depot and you hit it with the tattoo.
One of my videos that recently went viral was I coerced my husband into making a TikTok with me. But it was basically I had gone to Home Depot to get some screws for like a project that I was finishing. But on the way to Home Depot, I realized that I was going to drive by a tattoo parlor. And I'd been wanting to get this tattoo for a while, but as it happened, it was the first day that I had like an afternoon off in like months. I didn't have anything to do except go get screws. And so I went and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go get a tattoo today. And so I did so. And I went and I got this tattoo. And then I came home and my husband was like, cool, where are the screws? And I was like, forgot to get those. Did get a tattoo though, and Chris was like,
"Look how good
gosh,
it looks."
What are you doing? And so we made a TikTok about it, and it just happened to be one that like took off, and so like I get that a lot now. People are like, "Oh, the tattoo and the screws," and I was like, "Yes,
right there.
It's me." But I did get the screws the next day. Everybody was very worried about it. We got the screws in Friendship Project. Everybody was happy.
Any questions?
I mean, I've been asking them, but how'd you get the nickname Catieosaurus?
Oh God, it's not a very good story, and I'm really embarrassed when people ask me because I went to a very small school growing up. There's 18 kids in my graduating class. It was very small, but for whatever reason, there are 4 Katies, and there's Katie C, Katie K, Katie T, and Katie O, and I was Katie O, and so my whole life growing up, I was Katie O, and so I always kind of thought that Katie O was always kind of sound like part of a balanced breakfast. And so when I was choosing my TikTok name, I was like, oh, well, Catieosaurus, like it kind of sounds like a dinosaur. But what wound up happening is that like I sort of got into dinosaurs backwards because like who doesn't like dinosaurs? But I wasn't like deeply passionate and excited about dinosaurs. But as my community grew, people started sending me dinosaur stuff. And they started like being like, oh, you must really like dinosaurs.
You got the mask.
And I do I bought this here actually.
Oh, nice.
Here. But so I got, people started sending me dinosaur stuff. And so for me, Catieosaurus and like dinosaurs have become sort of synonymous with the community that I built. And so dinosaurs mean a lot to me, not because like I was like, oh, this is a huge super fan of dinosaurs, but because of like what they represent. And it's the fact that people will go so far out of their way to find me like cool dinosaur stuff. And it's just, to me, it's just really like symbolic of the fact that like we have this incredibly supportive community who cares.
She has a pillbox where she does openings every once in a while.
I do.
Oh.
I have all sorts of stuff. And so Catieosaurus didn't really come out of anything except the desperate panic to find a TikTok name. But it kind of stuck because of, frankly, what the community has done for us. And I don't know. I think that I know it's dorky, but it really means a lot
No,
to
it
me.
works.
no.
It's really cool.
You're
It
gonna, like,
goes
cry a little
along with
bit.
your name. So, I found you because we're friends on Facebook, and Facebook suggests all your TikTok friends.
Oh, there you go.
So, but yeah, no, I enjoy watching your stuff. I always give you a little heart.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So, and I was really happy that you hit 1,000 or 1 million. So I think I was on there when you were at like 4K.
Back in the day.
So,
It has been an extremely weird year, but I've had a really good time with it. We both have, honestly.
so, and I've seen Eric and some of the TikTok.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm the guy with the weird hair. Crazy guy.
I think
No,
when she
it's
posted
good
you, she
hair. It's
tagged
good
you.
hair
I
right
follow your
there.
channel too now.
It's
So,
that Hollywood hair. Because every time I see him doing it, it's like, it's all of a sudden I'm waiting for the slow motion.
It's a little bit, right? It's like, and then I've got just like this. This is what I got to work with. And Eric has this. That just lives on his head. It's not
Exactly, because as soon as he does it, the curls are like,
mine's
Yeah,
You can
here I
hear
am.
the Captain America.
Now I'm
theme,
watching.
like,
I can see myself in the
Yeah.
screen. Oh,
that's the thing, it's
see
just-
how your hair is just like, yes,
it's
right
true.
here.
The Captain
Yeah.
America theme just like starts playing.
Exactly.
You dress up like Captain America for 6-year-olds one time, and the theme song follows you everywhere.
Exactly. And your hair adapted to it. Because,
Yeah,
yes, I'm
exactly.
Captain America.
So, do you have any aspirations to cosplay anything in the future?
Oh
a
gosh,
million
I
things.
actually got my. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just saying. I mean, I got my start going to conventions as just like a cosplayer because I have a background in costume design and theater, and so I
nice.
love
And
cosplay.
Shakespeare.
I'm a big cosplayer, and so I've got a pretty decent bell that I put together recently, like from Beauty and the Beast. But I really want to cosplay Captain Carter. And I've had this ongoing debacle with getting a proper Captain Carter costume. But I was like, Eric has an amazing Captain America, and so I was like, I think it'd be really
If you
fun
need
for us
some
to.
help, we'll message on Facebook. I can set you up with some people.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I grew up. I've been LARPing since I was 12, and I would make all my own, whatever the heck's, costumes and weapons and props and whatnot.
Next year, I'm going to open up our field and have LARPers come over to the field.
Oh,
We
awesome.
have about 12 acres of property that I sit on.
Awesome!
That's so cool.
So
Wow.
I'm going to try to get all the LARPers out because I want to get pictures and video of you guys because it's like real life D&D. That's what LARPing
Yeah,
is.
yeah. It's
It's
basically
real life D&D.
everything out, but you're actually doing the thing. It's
Okay.
amazing.
So it's foam, it's beanbag chairs, it's the thing.
Yeah, so my struggle with cosplaying is that there's so many different things I want to cosplay, and I have such detailed ideas about how I want to make each thing. It's hard to like pick one and aim at it.
Yeah.
I get really hung up on like making it like absolutely screen accurate to like zooming in. I'm like
Yeah,
counting the
exactly.
stitches and stuff. And
I
I'm like,
always-
it's like nobody cares that much, but I'm like, it must be perfect.
I always like figure, find what I want to do, and then spend like 3 months on like one detail of
Yeah.
the thing, and then by the end of that 3 months, I've decided on doing something.
So they help.
My dream cosplay is Jack from the Jack and Daxter series. That scans with anybody.
You've got the hair.
I've been
Yeah.
told, I got
Yeah,
the
you
hair.
do have the hair. You have the hair.
I don't have the ears though, but I could find those.
Yeah,
We got you.
they can. Yeah, you can find someone to make it for you. Well, we're getting at the end of our time, so we thank you for interviewing and talking with
Thanks
the
for
audience
having
for
us.
MomoCon and Moana Nui. Can you tell those that just got introduced to you where they can find you and how they can find you?
Yeah, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hello, I'm Heygude. Hello, I'm Heygude, Heygude. I post mostly on TikTok. I talk about ADHD and mental health as it relates to adult life and cooking and being a working person. You can also find me as Heygude on all the other things. I'm also the co-host of I stream every single day on Twitch, which, by the way, follow me on Twitch. And I still cannot remember which side to gesture to, like for the Chiron. I'm also the co-host of Katie and Eric's Infinite Quest and ADHD podcast. And I stream on Twitch every day, so you can find me there as Heygude.
Okay.
And I'm Catieosaurus. I also do a lot of TikToking. Hello, TikTok. I'm Catieosaurus on TikTok. I also am a Twitch partner. I stream almost every day as well on Twitch. I have a YouTube channel now, so if you want to go check out YouTube for like longer form content. And I am also, as it happens, the co-host of Katie and Eric's Infinite Quest and ADHD Adventure. And I also have an Instagram and a Twitter, but that's mostly just pictures of like my coffee and just ladies late night shower thoughts. So like your results may vary on those.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Well, thank you for being part of MomoCon. We're so glad to have you part of this, and thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting with you on your platforms and learning more and growing.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. The work of all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
I'm Steve Bloom. I've been a voice actor for more than 30 years, playing characters like Wolverine, Starscream, Tank Dempsey from Call of Duty.
With Bloomfox Studios, I've learned so much about myself.
Learning to breathe, to no fear, to getting ugly in front of the mic.
One of the biggest changes I've noticed, at least for me, is how much my confidence level has gone up.
I've done an Eastern European video game, an e-commerce commercial, a documentary. If you're thinking about getting into voiceover, just do it. Jump in.